Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. As you can see, this time I'm looking at a Scart lead. This is for an Amiga, described as faulty. I've taken the the housing parts off this, as you can see over there. It's pretty obvious to me what's wrong with this right from the start, really. I mean, obviously, other than it being a mess and just not crimped properly, etc. This is the side that goes to the Amiga here. The colour scheme. So I can show you the Scart bit. This colour scheme is not, someone's not stuck to a standard colour designation with the wires there. I think you've got like red, green, blue, and some, someone's using yellow. I think the blue's on the green or something. I don't know. I need to check that. But also, there's no resistors on this. There's no way this would switch your TV into RGB mode. So that's going to be a big part of the problem as well. So I just need to inspect it, really, do some connectivity tests between the two connectors and the two phono leads, just to make sure it's all wired up correctly, and then clean it all up, reassemble it. Obviously get the resistor on there, and hopefully it should be working. So it's not rocket science making one of these up, but I thought I'd just search for some pinouts to make it a bit easier, because my memory's a bit rusty. I need 16, I think, is the switching pin. That looks correct. Or is it pin 8? I always forget. Yeah, 8 is the switching pin, 16 is the RGB mode, that's right. But yeah, Ian Stedman, again, top guy. Check out his website. This is where this diagram is from. So I need a couple of resistors. I'll go with the resistor sizes he suggested here, although I suspect I might need to swap that 75 for 150 with my LCD TV here. I'm not sure. Some LCD, it depends what voltage I guess is coming out of pin 23. It might be alright with 75 ohms, so I'll go with 75 ohms to start with. But I need a 1K and a 330, so I'll dig those resistors out, and then put these in place to start with, and just check everything else whilst I'm there. So you can see what I had to do here is add these resistors in. You've got the switching resistor there of 1K. The composite is the top one there, pin 20. I think that goes to that's composite sync. And then I think I didn't have the right. No, I didn't have the right size resistor for that. That should be 330 ohms. I only had a 220, so that's what I've got in there for the moment. But I will order some. It should work without it. I think it should work with a 220, but I want to get a 330 just because Ian Steady suggested that that's what's actually the best size for this. And then a 75 ohm on the switch, the RGB mode there as well. So I need to do something with the cable relief here. You can see, it was loose and stuff. I've moved it up, push it into the fitting there. That should be okay. So I'll tighten these up, perhaps about that position there, and hopefully that should work. So the other thing I've done here is I've crimped it. I put the pliers across there and squashed it really hard because it still wasn't making a good connection. But as you can see now, you can't you can't move at the other end from this end. It's really tight, nice and snug. So it's quite fiddly to put back together. This, you've got to get these little screw things in the right place. I think I've got those around the right way. I'm not sure whether does that bit go on the inside. I honestly can't remember now. Crikey, you wouldn't imagine how hard that was to do, actually. It's these little winged bits, they're hard to get in. What you've got to do is put the plastic piece on, the top and bottom, and then try and push the thing through. It won't go all the way through. You have to just separate the top from the bottom a little bit until the screw there slides through, and then hold it all together. Do the same thing the other side, just let's say prise it apart a little bit so that the screw will go through, because I think it's slightly wider so that it can't pull out like that. And then just hopefully clip it all back together and put your screws and nuts, and you should be done. But yeah, that's nice and tight there. It wobbles around a bit, but it's firm. It can't come disconnected. So let's give that a try. So all connected back up there now. As you can see, I'm using the 500 I fixed a few videos back. Floppy drive we fixed in the previous video. The power supply I fixed in the previous video. There'll be a future video for a mouse that I'll use for this one as well, faulty one. But right now let's just point on the screen and I'll switch it on. Let's see what happens. It should work in theory. Yeah, that's looking really good. The TV swapped. I don't know if you saw there was like some sort of sync issue. It could well be that resistor I've got on the composite sync perhaps needs to be 330 ohms instead of 220. That might be the issue, but as you can see, we're getting a really clean picture. So stick a disc in, Bionic Commando, let's give that a try. I'll just see if I can move the camera up a little bit so that you don't get so much glare. That's looking really good though, really nice, clean, sharp display. It's better than my VGA output, this actually. If it was convenient, I'd be using it on this TV all the time, but just the location I have my 1200, it's better being on the LCD. But yeah, that's sweet. So here's the mouse I'm about to have a look at. Look at the state of it, it's absolutely disgusting. So yeah, be interesting to see what's, how this is once I've cleaned it up. Does it work or not? But to start with, I'm going to clean up all the exterior before I do anything. Well, I've cleaned up the cable. You can see it's pretty clean. There's barely a mark on it. But look at some of the shit that's come off the cable. There's about 20 of rags like that have come off just from the cable. And I just thought I'd show you the ball. Just look at how dirty the ball is. Look at that. It's like you could have got some elephant shit or something and put this in there, left it for 6 months, and I'm sure it'd look clean when you take it out. It's unbelievable. Yeah, so I probably will, once I've just tested, I'm going to clean up the cavity here, clean up the ball, clean up the little rollers, test it, see if it works. If it works, then I'll just strip it down. Well, I'm going to strip it down anyway, and just give the inside a bit of a clean, because there's going to be loads of shit inside there probably as well. So I just thought I'd show you this. Obviously it's looking a lot cleaner. I need to take it apart inside. I'm not even trying it with the ball. Can you see that wheel at the bottom there? It's just minging. I've cleaned it with cotton buds, and the black muck that's come off, it's just unbelievable. I can move up and down, I can't move left and right. The wheel there for left and right is having no effect. I've messed with the cable just to rule out the cable. I don't think it's the cable. So I think there's going to be a lot of dirt and shit inside this, so I'll tear it down and we'll look inside it. So it's not looking too bad on the inside here, but yeah, it probably could need with do with a clean. So I'll get some cotton buds and things in here, perhaps strip this down and try and wipe the IR sensors and things there. It looks very much like the mouse for the C64. It's pretty much identical, to be honest. Still not working after a clean. You can see here the IR diodes hopefully emitting there, and on this side as well. So that top one and down there. So it looks similar to the problem we had with that C64 mouse, where I think some shit's got into this side, perhaps on the sensors or in the little holes, because the holes are very thin. It could even be that the plastic's warped again. It's funny, it's the same orientation, same direction problem as well. Up and down works, left and right doesn't. So I'll take this piece of plastic off here and have a look inside. Right, well, as you can see, I've chopped this up completely. I did some connectivity tests, and from the red wire on the board here, sorry it's a bit dark, the red wire, there was no connectivity to pin 2, which I think is the horizontal. I think that's the problem. And I very carefully cut all this off here and just exposed this, and I haven't damaged it. You're probably not going to be able to see, but the red wire just here is split. Yeah, you're not going to be able to see it because of the light, but yeah, there's a split in it, and you can see the plastic parts exposed there. This is not me that's cut it. It's worn and got twisted and stuff just at that point. That was all encapsulated within the rubber, but there was a funny sort of lump here on the wire, so that was the telltale sign that something had happened there. So I've ordered a new one of these, but I think what I'm going to do now is just continue cutting this off, and I might just solder that red wire and just give it a try with this on here. It's quite long. It's amazing how extended that D connector is within the the plastic housing there. So here's a closer look. You can see that the red. If I just push it out a little bit, you can see it's snapped, and all this here is the wear. That's not been cut. That was what it was like when I exposed it from within the cover and inside. So here's a quick progress update. As you can see, I've cut off all of the surrounding plastic housing from the connector here, and these two metal bits just come off. They separate. I think you've got to remove a bit of solder from the the ground connection there from one of them, but you can separate them. So I mean, if this wasn't potted, I could reassemble this actually and use this with a bit of heat shrink or something over it. But as you can see here, this whole bottom part of it, the bottom half, more than half of it is, it's plastic, but it's potted. They must have filled that with something at manufacture. You can see the wires there just protruding a little bit on the top. But as you can see, the red wire there is broken. Now I did join that back up, still no connectivity. There is connectivity from here, from this end, to the PCB. So the brake, there's another brake actually internal to here. It's perhaps been pulled off, inside there. You could probably pull that out. I don't want to. I'm going to snip it off in a minute anyway. The other thing that I've noticed, I then went away and did connectivity tests using my multimeter, between the wires on the board under here and the two buttons that go onto here and the connector, to determine which coloured wires are going where. Because it's one thing getting a pin out for a joystick port or a mouse port from the net, but unless you know which wires are which on here, you could spend quite a while trying to do a bit of trial and error to work out which one's the buttons, which one's the pots. Or you'd have to certainly inspect the board here to work out, certainly from the the way this is wired, what's going where, and it'd be a bit of a pain in the backside if I'm honest. So it was easier just to get pen and paper, draw the pins out and then do connectivity tests, and I could and write down the markings on the board here. So YE is yellow, it's just written, that's how it's written on the silk screen on the board there. OR orange, doesn't look orange, but I've written that there anyway. And you've got the red, which was the one that was missing. I think that's brown. And then you've got some of the buttons. I think the one that was connected was going to pin 9, but there was one missing. There was no connection to pin 6, and that's the other button. So there were two issues with this. The red wire was missing, which is one of the directions, so when you move it left to right, that, one side of that was not there, so that wouldn't work. And I think it was a left click. I think that one's the right click, and the right click was working, but I couldn't move the cursor enough to be able to move over something to test the left click, and clearly the left click was not connected either. And then you've got white, which is ground, and the it says PU, I think it is, which is +5. So I've got one of these. Yeah, it's grey. It's about as near as I'm going to get, really. It should be alright. It doesn't really matter, does it? A black one would just be just as good, really. So what I'm going to do now is snip this off here. Probably strip it back a bit, actually. I might snip it here, cut it here, like that, and then just strip it back a little bit, and put the new connector on and give it a try. And before I put that connector on, I thought I'd just point out this is pretty much identical to the C64 mouse I've shown. I can't remember the model number there. You'd have to look back. I'll perhaps put it up here so you can see the C64 model number. But if you look at the assembly here, the mechanism, the mechanical part, it's identical. It's absolutely identical. Even the the way that these plastic bung stops sort of fit in and hold the the bar in place. And the little slots and things inside there are exactly the same as the one I looked at on the C64, and it's got the same assembly here for the buttons and things, just a different chip. And the interesting thing with this is, before I noticed the connectivity issue, I did go away and look to see if I could find a replacement one of these, CA339E, and I think it's an off-the-shelf comparator, so you could actually replace that if that chip was damaged, faulty. And you've got a similar thing here with a little resistor, series of resistors here, and the way that, if you look, they are wired through to the receiver, the infrared receiver diodes or whatever they are on here. The two pairs, and it's a similar thing where you've got slightly different size resistors there. They're almost the same in this case between the two axes, but you've got like a larger one, I think, and a smaller one, a larger one and a smaller one. I could have those around the wrong way, but yeah, so they're different. So they seem to set these, specify the sizes of those according to how these sensors have performed, perhaps under test. But I mean, we might have a second problem with this. I may well still have a problem with the IR receiver sides of here, but I suspect not. It's most likely just to be the connectivity. So I'll get that new connector on there and we'll give it a try. So as you can see, all reassembled here, got a new connector on, just tested this, it works, I'll show you in a minute. But one more thing I thought that might be useful, I've not covered on other videos, because I've done things like this before. It's not rocket science putting a new connector on. It's just a case of taking your time, really, and making sure you get the right wires going to the right pins. But with the buttons here, these are these sort of blister ones, they've got like a little metal two metal pieces, well, one metal piece inside that sits over the top of the board with 3 contacts that stand it off the board, and as you press it, it flexes and clicks. Now can you hear how loud that's clicking there in comparison to that one? That one's about half the volume of the left one. Now previously, you wouldn't believe it, but the left one was half as loud as the right one. So you can imagine how little it was clicking. In fact, I was having to press it quite hard to get it to actuate. So I've done something to that, and I'm going to show you with the right button now, actually, because I want to get the right one working just as well. So I'll take it back to pieces and I'll show you what's required. You can see this is the side that I've done already, and what you do is you lift the tape. It's like a thick piece of adhesive tape there. I'm trying to find where it ends on this side here. Just bear with me a sec. Yeah, so what you've got to do, you've got to lift the tape like this carefully. You could always just use new tape again, but if you lift the tape, can you see it separates, and you get this flat piece here, you know, the bit with the 3 little notches, just sits over the top of the centre area here. So what you can do is, I mean, you can see how dirty that is. I don't know how well it's coming out. Can you see? We've got dirt on it and stuff, so we can clean that up with a cotton bud, some isoprop. Make sure you don't get the isoprop anywhere near the sellotape, because obviously it'll weaken the adhesive. But you can also just pull this off the tape with a bit of effort. There we go. Get it off. We'll clean this up with some isoprop, both sides, just to make it nice and clean. But then the key, and this is the important bit, this is what I'll show you. This is how you get the things clicking again. If I just put this on the floor here, I'll zoom in as close as I can without it blurring. And yeah, you've got to get it the right way up. Yeah, it must be that way. Sorry, off camera again. So then to get it clicking again, you've got to put it this way up so the little, you know, the 3 little notches are facing you effectively. You know, if you look, hopefully you can see which way around that goes. You know, that's the side that goes with the sellotape. It's the side that faces the PCB. Put it face down, put a screwdriver just in the middle there, and just gently press it down like that. It's probably best off doing this on a carpet or something like that, because it will give, and as you push it, you're bending it slightly, so you probably won't be able to tell. Got some hair and all sorts of that does need cleaning up, but just the fact that I've just pushed the centre down means that it's got more of a flex. I need to clean it. Got more of a flex in it, and when I reassemble that in a minute, you should be able to hear the difference. So we'll clean the PCB with a bit of isoprop, and I tend to just leave something over like that, overlapping. Just makes it a bit easier so that you can clean it, and it's not going to, you know, the sellotape's not going to flick back. And you want to just clean this area. You like to say, stay away from the sellotape, because you don't want to weaken the adhesive. This will, you know, remove the adhesive from the tape. But if you clean thoroughly enough around here, it should also mean that when you put the tape back down, you get a nice clean join, and obviously you're going to get better connectivity as well, because you've cleaned that area. Also, that's not too bad. And then clean up this metal piece here with isoprop. We can get all this sticky stuff and this bits of hair and all sorts on at the moment, actually. We'll just spend some time cleaning that up on both sides. So there, hopefully you can see that's nice and clean on both sides now. So we've got to just position this on the right place on the board. I'll just get another screwdriver to help me do this, and use the one here as a reference so you can see which way, you know, it regards the orientation. I'll just see if I can get a little bit closer. Yeah, it's about as close as we're going to get, I think. So when you position it back down, let's say just use this one as a reference here. If we just move it around a little bit, you want the centre piece there to be in line with the trace that comes underneath, you know, so you've got to make sure it doesn't have to be like accurate to within like 1/4 of a millimetre or anything like that, but yeah, the nearer you can get it the better. And then as you carefully pull this tape over like that, it will hold it in position. You can just, you know, try and get the air out of there just to help it make a nice snug fit onto the board. And it's important you let the isoprop dry off completely before you do this, otherwise, as they say, you'll weaken the adhesive. But if I just reassemble that now, and I'll, in fact I won't screw it together, I'll just stick the top on so you can hear how it clicks. I can just get that back piece in. Yeah, so hopefully you should be able to tell the difference here. Let me zoom out a bit. Hear that now? That one's even stronger than the left one. So that's the difference it makes just from putting that bit of pressure on there. And of course over time the same problem's going to happen. These things don't last forever, but as I'll show you on the Amiga in a minute, that will be now pretty much good as new. So as you can see, we're plugged into the back of the 1200 there. Our mouse is here. I've just pointed you at the screen, so I'll have to hold this as I do it. As I move the mouse around, that's working fine. If I right click, you can see the top there, that's working, and it's quite loud. The right click actually is now louder than the left click. And obviously the left click's working because I'm able to click onto these things. Anyway, I thought you'd find that interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.